Hi, I'm Sunshine Cavaluzzi. I'm a social science teacher at El Dorado High School in Placentia, California in Orange County, and I teach AP Government, College Prep Economics, and Contemporary World Affairs, which is a current events elective. I am not a musician in any way, shape, or form. I played a totally unillustrious flute in the 5th through 8th grades, and that was about the end of my career. But I love music, I always have, and our school has a ton of kids who are performing artists. Our band has 200 students in it, which is about 10% of the school. So for me, using music in the classroom is not only a way to do something I love and relate it to content I love, social science, but also a way to engage my students who are musicians, who love music. You know, surprisingly enough, not every kid walks in the door saying, I love economics, this is going to be the greatest class ever. But they do love music. So if we're talking about the economics of music, then it's a way to connect them and make these concepts that are really theoretical all of a sudden relate to something they know, so it makes it more accessible and also more interesting. So there are sort of a variety of ways. In my AP class, around the holidays, students have to take a traditional holiday carol and rewrite it to incorporate concepts from class. So it's a review exercise. And then we have a day where we do caroling. And so each group stands up and kind of leads the class in their particular song that they've rewritten. In my government class, when we're studying state and local government, each student brings in a song that is meaningful to them about California, that they feel like represents what it's like to live in California. And we use that as a platform for finding your voice as an activist. So if you're from California, what's meaningful to you? Then what steps could you take in terms of contacting your local legislature or your other representatives to try to preserve that or try to maintain that, or how could that influence you as a voter in your decision making? So it's sort of a springboard into activism. And then in econ, we do a lesson on the economics of the music industry. So every student brings in a song about money, and then they have to analyze how does that song reflect concepts of money that are kind of theoretical economic concepts. And they also have to do some research on the artist who wrote the song and decide what do they think about the artist's personal narrative would have influenced them to write about money in that way. And then lastly, in my world affairs class, I partner with our world religions teacher, and her students bring in sacred songs, and my students bring in protest songs, and then they get into joint groups, and they have to compare and contrast. How are the same messages reinforced in different kinds of music? How is metaphor used? Why might metaphor be used in messages in societies that are repressive either toward religion or toward protest? And then they have to write a mashup of either a found poem or a song combining all of those thematic elements. I think the benefits of using music in the classroom are really virtually endless. And first of all, the students like it. And we all know as teachers, engagement is 2/3 of the battle. If they want to be in class, if they're excited about the material, you can teach them anything. So starting with a hook that makes it interesting is of great value in that way. It also, I think we all know, music helps us remember stuff. Just like, I can hear a song and go, oh, okay, that was sophomore year of college when I was on a road trip with my friends driving in this place. Well, in the same way, if we link music to concepts, then I've had kids come back from taking the AP test and say, oh, I remembered our Jingle Bells was about how a bill becomes a law, and so I sang it in my head, and that's how I remembered the idea. And I think it also just makes it relatable. And a lot of the concepts we teach are foreign to students. And for us as high school teachers, we majored in that subject. We love it. So it's sometimes hard to overcome that barrier and the kid doesn't necessarily like it or get it in the same way that it was intuitive to us. And music is a bridge that does make it more accessible to them. And it's fun for us because it's not the same old, same old. And every time I do any one of those lessons, it's different because kids bring in different songs. And I love that because it takes something that I've taught for 15 years and it makes it new and fresh to me every period that I do it. If you're thinking about incorporating music, I would say dive in. Try something. It's not difficult. And if I can do it without being musical at all, anybody can. And say start small, look at all the ample resources that are available on the GRAMMY Museum website from other colleagues in other places, and just try something. And I feel like as soon as you try something and you see how effective it is, you're emboldened to try more and more and more. And we're so lucky to live in a time when every kid has a music library in their pocket. We can get pretty much anything online, so it's not the kind of barriers that used to exist to it. And so it's really easy, the kids will love it, and it's well worth whatever time you have to invest in creating a lesson. So I am so thankful for my relationship with the GRAMMY Museum. I think the support of teachers is extraordinary. It's virtually unprecedented how open the museum is to teachers, how welcoming, how much stuff is accessible there. In terms of the Jane Ortner Award, I just happen to be, as well as my other hats at the school, I'm our accreditation coordinator. And in that capacity, every week I put out a newsletter for our staff with tips for different things they could be doing in the classroom toward our goals. And so one week I was writing about using music in the classroom and the benefits, and I did a Google search, and the Jane Ortner Award popped up, and I sent out to the staff, hey, you guys should apply for this if you're using music in your classroom. And I went, wait a minute, I use music in the classroom and I want to go to the Grammys. And it was the easiest application ever, which I really appreciated because I am a busy teacher, and so having, writing essays and getting letters and doing other stuff is not necessarily really doable for me. But this was great. It was give us your information and send us your lesson plan. Tell us what you're doing. So it was very manageable. And then when I got the call that I got to meet the First Lady, who is one of my absolute personal heroes, it was really, outside of my kids being born and probably getting married, the best day of my life. Getting to go down for that day and bring my students with me was a glorious, glorious and unforgettable experience. And I am so thankful to have gotten to do that. And I'm not doing anything that anyone else couldn't do. I am just a teacher in a suburban high school, and anybody can do what we do. You just have to dive in and take a chance.